that. And if you notice, I literally just walked off working day two on an ICE raid and jumped into this chair to run our executive board meeting, NABJ executive board meeting, and start here. I normally like to sit up in the room with my couple of Emmys behind me and my nice dress shirt. That's not happening today, but that's okay because I'm going to walk with you for just 1 second and show you why I'm running again. I am not the traditional broadcast journalist. I work in a newspaper. The newspaper that I work in is just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's been a partnership that I've had for a while. This is what I want to show you. It's going to get a little dark. When I first came here, there were about 20 people, 15, 50, 20 people in the newsroom here who are working on content production. This is the newsroom now. Over here is storage for older papers. My office was over there. There were desks and cubicles all over the place. And you guys who are in print, you know, and we're learning now in broadcast that this is nothing new. Newsrooms are shrinking dramatically. So the two things that I'm experiencing today are the two things for which have me running for office again. Number one, this ICE raid and dealing with an onslaught from Washington, D.C., something that we saw coming for a while back and something I started meeting with the FCC with back in January of 2024. Black journalism is too important for us to turn away from it. The people who rely on us for news, the people who rely on us for information, the need is too great right now. We need to be in a position to share stories. We need to be in a position to talk about those people and those people who have elevated voices for us. We need to talk about more people like Sarah Ann Shaw, who I understand there's going to be a library dedicated to her in Roxbury, correct? Things like that, where we make sure people understand the importance of who we are, why it matters, not just as Black journalists, but as a Black community as a whole. I was delighted to hear about the showing last night, I believe it was, of our film NABJ Behind the Headlines, which is so important. It's important because it notes how we started, why we got into this industry, and why we must continue to fight. We have to continue to fight because we can't go back to where we were before. We can't go back to where we were before 1975. And I know you guys were doing the doggone thing even before 1975. We can't go back to those places where we're fighting for access and we're fighting for representation and we're fighting to get the stories on in the way we had before. And so for us, it means a continuation of just a few things. Building coalitions. It is fighting and stepping up and telling people when we know they're wrong, even calling out J.D. Vance and the Trump administration when their criticism led to swatting of the Haitian Times. That's a real example of how the things that people say, even at the highest levels, can have an impact on Black journalists and the lives of Black journalists. And we need to be straightforward with that. It is teaming up with over 52 journalism organizations to affirm that journalism is a function of democracy and government interference should not be tolerated. It is always pushing back whenever some people push up on us. The ways that we do this now and the ways that I will do this as president, addressing the shrinking newsrooms and addressing the other things, is making sure that we have certified learning opportunities. We began a little bit of that in Region 3. I want to continue that in every one of our regionals and our media institutes where we're imparting upon people stuff that'll take them learning opportunities that won't just be panel discussions, but things that you're going to walk back with and walk into your newsroom and show value in who you are and what you are. Expanding the Leadership Academy, because as I talk to executives, news executives, one thing that they tell me is that there's still always opportunity for people to move into management positions. And that's one of the things that our members tell us they appreciate learning about at our national convention. My dream of our Leadership Academy, which right now prepares people to become news directors and publishers, is that we start in the classroom introducing our students to something other than being a byline or a SIG out, and making sure they understand what management looks like, supporting them when they become emerging journalists, and then when they get their first role in management, helping them not only with the tools to learn, to grow in development, but also with the mentorship and the connection so that they have valuable pieces they keep throughout their careers and they'll never let go of, and then reminding them to reach back and help the others. We want to be very thoughtful about how we grow the organization and how we grow people in decision-making positions. I'll apologize to you. I'm really good at time being a broadcast journalist. I'm not sure how much time you guys give me to speak, but I'm going to talk just about a couple of other things. For those journalists who are caught in the dragnet of shrinking newsrooms, I mean, literally, I told you guys there were about 15 to 20 journalists who were working out there in content production, one and a half right now, one full-time, one part-time. And then I'm in this office because my Wi-Fi works here. These are executive suites. There are a couple of guys having lunch down in the press room, from the press room in the boardroom that was set up for the publisher here. We need to continue to pour in with NABJ Cares around the clock. NABJ Cares was designed if there were mass layoffs for us to come out and us to respond and say, here's some money, it can help you get along. If there's natural disasters, we need to be ready and be in a position to assist our journalists when they need help and when they need us the most. And so it's working to build that around the clock. I can tell you right now, if you guys have probably faced this with fundraising, fundraising in the era of DEI is very difficult. NABJ has been successful in doing a few things. It's building relationships early on. I brought in the presidents of ABC News, CBS News, TNT, CNN, New York Times. We had several others in the suite in Chicago talking to them. And I've continued the conversations with executives about supporting Black journalists and making sure that we make those phone calls, particularly right now, and say, is this important to you? Is this a value to you? We'll be watching to see if it is. We believe that you should engage with NABJ, but we also want to make sure that you're treating the people who are there right. And when we can, and when you're serious about it, we'll be there to assist you and make sure, because when we work together in that way, it only benefits our members. I'll say this last thing to you. I've been here for a very long time. Some of you guys have known me for a while. Some people count that as a discredit. I'll tell you what it says. It tells you that I know what it means to get it done. In the last couple of years, and this is just the last couple of years, we've had advocacy that now has turned the Wall Street Journal, who wasn't representing well at the top and the bottom, to committing 4 of their fellowships to NABJ members. Advocacy in the last 2 years, and just the last 2 years, that now has changes in policy at Nexstar and at Tegnet. In the last couple of years, I've been part of directly raising over $250,000 in new sponsor money and nearly $700,000 in grants. So when you hear people talk about the importance of NABJ and what we do in programming and what we do in fundraising, speak to the idea of what have you done? And that tells you what you can do from that point forward. And that's not a slight on anyone or any given individual. All of us have the best of ideas. I'll tell you, Gary, I swear to you, when I sit down and I write on the web article, I could be a print writer. That's BS, and you and I both know it. That's not what I do professionally, and I should probably leave that to you guys. I can write enough to get us through and help people understand what's coming up next. But when you talk about what those talents are and what those measurements are and what really builds, look at the DNA and look how people have engaged with the organization in the past, and that's a good predictor of how they'll show up for you in the future. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to go too long. I just finished leading.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any questions? Yes. Go ahead, Kwani.
Hi, I'm Kwani.
Hey, how you doing, Kwani?
Social media for BABJ. You mentioned talking to the networks and papers about making sure that DEI is a priority for these organizations, but the reality is a lot of them, whether they say it on paper, they have definitely scaled back. How do you plan on holding these companies accountable and making sure?
That's just it. I'll be honest with you. I had a conversation. Past presidents have been so helpful. I had a conversation with the past president because I was a little concerned. I was like, look, everybody's running scared right now, right? All these news entities are running scared in some way, shape, or form, scared of being sued. And so I had my first advocacy where I was stepping up and calling somebody out. And the word that I got is, you have to do it. You have to do it. Stepping forward in that space showed us why we have to do it. People understand whether they sugarcoat it with their language outside or not. They understand the importance and the value that you bring to this institution, to this industry, journalism as a whole. But we have to sometimes step up and remind them you're not treating us right and you need to change. And so it is looking at that, but it also always starts with that first conversation. I want to know what's going on. I'll tell you a perfect example. I had a sit down with the Hill, and we do this in partnership. It's not just me. So if you ever hear me say I and me too much, call me on it. It is working in tandem, and we work with the local chapter in Washington. We had to discuss with the Hill because they were making some serious cuts. And we said, you have a race and politics position. That's important now more than it's ever been. We need to make sure that you guys keep that. We understand you're trying to cut 22 jobs. This one position here, you need to take a serious look at. And we made it very clear. If they didn't do that, we're going to call them out on it. But you have to do that. You have to step up. We can't step back just because people are changing the tone of what they're doing, because that allows folks to then walk all over you. And walking all over NABJ means walking all over you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is there another question? I'll tell you what. Yes, go ahead.
I'll chime in. So, I guess whose decision was it to invite Trump last year, and was that the right decision?
It wasn't even a decision. It's something that we traditionally do. It wasn't a decision in the idea of saying, well, let's do something we have never done before. Every year we invite the sitting president. We won't do it this year. Let me be very clear about that. We won't do it this year. Every 4 years, we invite the people who will be, and usually we can tell by then who will be the presumptive nominees. We invite them. He said yes. He came. I can tell you one thing that I'm most proud of. Out of every one of the rallies, out of every one of the sit-down interviews that they've done with TV stations and debates that they have done, and there have only been 3 debates in that, there were only 2 major consequential interviews during the entire election cycle. And one of them happened on the stage in Chicago at the NABJ convention, where we had an opportunity to show the world exactly what it means when we say, come to my house, sit at my living room on my couch, and let's talk real business, so the folks here in this household understand what you mean. It was the first time that we had an opportunity to ask someone questions about a battery of issues that matter to the Black community and really press to get answers, not just make happy the people who kind of watch our type of news, but actually sit people down and ask them. I know there was a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about that, but also I do know that from that Sunday before that interview to I believe it was a Thursday afterwards, the Republican presumptive nominee dropped by 4 points. And people who don't speak languages that I'm able to even pronounce are talking about NABJ, and to the point that when we were seeing 2 and 3 weeks later, when we're talking political discussions, they're showing him on our stage there. That was a meaningful point. That was an opportunity for us to drive home, and it was a great opportunity. One thing I loved about that was looking at the front row and seeing all the student journalists consume and understand and have that moment to be able to know what it means to walk into, to be, I've got my badge for the White House press corps. I don't follow politics, but when you get an opportunity to follow the president, you have to get your White House press corps clearance, and got a little badge, and it still sticks in my nightstand drawer. But for those students to be able to say, I was there and I had the opportunity to cover and shape that meant a lot. But for us, and I don't just mean us as Black journalists, important for NABJ, but for everybody who relies on us out there, that was an opportunity for us to inform.
Got it. All right, we got about 2 more minutes, so either a question or a comment. Is there another question?
Just a real quick follow-up. Oh, go ahead, Gary. You got it, Gary.
No, real quick, Ken. Obviously, that was a controversial move. It was a risky move. How do you re-engage people who just said they're walking away from, like, you heard everything about that move, whether I'm sure you've been lauded and you've been, criticized, all the gamut. Okay. How do you try to re-engage members who said they're not coming to convention, they're done with ABJ? How do you re-engage those members who had an issue with that, and what kind of what goes into the thinking of trying to be a media organization, but also with the current president, someone who is not popular amongst our community?
Yeah, and you really have to open your eyes on things, and you have to make some changes, right? So every year we invite the president. That's not going to happen right now. We will talk about consequential issues. We'll talk about those things that are meaningful to us. But that's not going to happen right now, because this isn't that period. This isn't that period for which we have the opportunity to really make that impact. the way we did last year. So sometimes it takes changing. But for those individuals who may have a problem with it, I'll tell you, I've sat down and I've listened to people, and I've asked questions about that, and I try to understand. And one thing that we do understand, and if you guys are in journalism now and you're of a certain age, you know that the next age of journalists who are stepping in believe in bringing their authentic selves to the table in a way that we haven't done in the past. And so their opinions and their thoughts are far more valuable in a space where we typically don't express them. And it's understanding them as individuals. And we need to understand them because I'll be honest with you, our fastest growing segment of NABJ are young journalists, which is wonderful. It's great. It's like that church you have, you walk into the church and you don't see a bunch of young people, that's not a good sign. Our young group is growing and developing. So it is being open to discussion when it comes to that.
Sherrod, did you have something really quick?
No, that's okay. Gary,
Okay,
pretty
all right.
much that's the
Ken, you want to
question.
drop your link or any of your contact information in the chat?
I
And
will
this way
indeed.
we can add it when we upload this video. More than happy to do that. Thank you so much for coming this evening. This was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you for making time for me. I greatly appreciate it. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to folks there. And I hope the showing went well. And I love that I'm an executive producer on that. I'm an executive producer because we work behind the scenes on what the shape and format should look like, and not hands-on, but that's one of the ways that we need to be in a position to begin to tell our story as a Black community and make sure it's heard loudly and shared with as many people as we possibly can. We don't always have that voice when the bans happen or what have you, but we do have the opportunity to tell our story. And this is one way we should do it. And thank you for all those who worked to make it possible for that showing to happen last night. I heard it went well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.